Yeah, so often we have children in there that are little toddlers, right? They don't know what's going on. All they know is that they don't feel good. It's scary. There are needles and medicine that tastes yucky. And sometimes they go to sleep, and while they're asleep, people work on them, and then they wake up and they have boo-boos all over, and it hurts. They don't get it. These little 2-year-old toddlers, Mommy and Daddy might be there, but it's scary. And what they don't know, they don't know anything about anatomy or physiology. What they don't know is that there's a doctor who does. The doctor knows. He's got a plan. He knows what he's doing. And all of that pain is for a purpose. If I could explain that to the 2-year-old, how would that change their experience in the hospital? How would it change? If the 2-year-old knew what was happening and why it was happening, how would that change his experience?
It'd make it a lot better.
It'd make it a lot better. Would it still hurt?
Yeah.
Would it still be scary? But there would be an aspect of hope, and it would make it a little bit safer. When you know what's really going on, if the 2-year-old could see what was really going on and understand the reasons behind the needles and the pain and the yucky medicine, if they could see what was really going on, they would feel different. When y'all know what's really going on with your life, you think different, you feel different, you act different. What's real and what's true for you, human being, is that you live on a broken planet. It hasn't always been broken, and it won't always be broken, but today you live on a broken planet. A planet where the very rocks cry out because they're groaning. It's so broken. What's true for you is that you will hurt. That is true about your life. You will hurt. Let's look at Genesis 16 and Hagar's story. Now Sarai, Abram's wife, had borne him no children. She had a female Egyptian servant whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said to Abram, "Behold, now the Lord has prevented me from bearing children. Go into my servant. It may be that I shall obtain children by her." And Abram listened to the voice of Sarai. So after Abram lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar the Egyptian, her servant, and gave her to Abram, her husband, as a wife. And he went in to Hagar, and she conceived, and when she saw that she had conceived, she looked with contempt on her mistress. And Sarai said to Abram, "May the wrong done to me be on you. I gave my servant to your embrace, and when she saw that she had conceived, she looked on me with contempt. May the Lord judge between you and me." But Abram said to Sarai, "Behold, your servant is in your power. Do to her as you please." Then Sarai dealt harshly with her, and she fled from her. The angel of the Lord found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, the spring on the way to Shur. He said to her, "Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from and where are you going?" She said, "I am fleeing from my mistress Sarai." The angel of the Lord said to her, "Return to your mistress and submit to her." The angel of the Lord also said to her, "I will surely multiply your offspring so that they cannot be numbered for multitude." And the angel of the Lord said to her, "Behold, you are pregnant and shall bear a son. You shall call his name Ishmael, because the Lord has listened to your affliction. He shall be a wild donkey of a man, his hand against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he shall dwell over against all his kinsmen." So she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her, "You are the God of seeing." For she said, "Truly, here I have seen him who looks after me." Therefore the well was called Bir Lahai Roi, which lies between Kadesh and Bered. And Hagar bore Abram a son, and Abram called the name of his son, whom Hagar bore, Ishmael. Abraham was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abram. This week may be an escape from your life. I don't know your story. But this week may be just a time when you can get away from your world. And in a couple days you have to go back. Some of you have hard stories, hard families. You come from hard places. Some of you come from hard high schools. Some of you are headed back to really hard places. The fall is real. The earth was perfect. And then Eve she ate, She gave, and he took, and he ate, and their eyes were open. And immediately, everything that is hurtful and scary and dark and evil comes rushing into the universe in a moment. And the earth is changed for a while. The fall is real, and you feel the effects of the fall. Hagar was a slave girl. She came from Egypt. She was obtained when Abram and Sarai were in Egypt. In chapter 12, verse 14, when Abram entered Egypt, the Egyptians saw that the woman was very beautiful, his wife. When the princes of Pharaoh saw her, they praised her to Pharaoh. And the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house, and for her sake he dealt well with Abram. And he had sheep, oxen, male donkeys, male servants, female donkeys, and camels. So the Pharaoh gave Abram all of these things. He gave him cows and camels and women and men. And they're all just lumped together in one big thing. I don't know how Hagar became a slave. I don't know if she was captured into slavery. I don't know if her parents sold her into slavery to pay off a debt. I don't know if she was born into slavery. Maybe her parents were slaves and she was born into. But what I do know about Hagar is what she wanted, how she felt, didn't matter to anyone. She was lumped together with camels and cows and given to this guy that she didn't know. And then the guy leaves. Who knows what was going on in her life? Who knows if she had friends that she cared for, or someone that she was interested in, or goals or dreams or hopes of any kind? Who cares? It didn't matter. No one cared. She was lumped together with cows and she was given away. So she ends up with these two owners. These owners could care less about her. She did not have a warm, safe environment that she could call home. She was not seen. She was not heard. Culturally, back then, this was okay. So the one thing a woman could do, the only thing a woman could do that mattered, was have a baby. Doesn't matter how smart she was. Doesn't matter how gifted she was. Doesn't matter what talents or skills or personality she had. The only thing that mattered is if she could have a baby. And if she couldn't have a baby, she would use someone else to have her baby. So you were allowed to use a slave, a maidservant. The slave didn't have a choice. She would get pregnant. She would carry this baby in her womb for 9 months, know this baby, feel this baby, and then when the baby came, it wasn't hers. And they could get rid of the slave as soon as the baby was born. They didn't care. Who's looking out for Hagar in this story? No one yet. Also, Hagar didn't have a choice to have sex with this old dude. It wasn't her choice. She just had to do it. No one, her pain, no one saw, no one cared. Who's looking out for Hagar? In this setting, it's not God's people. Right? Abram has heard the voice of the Lord, of God. God has He's come to Abram and made promises to Abram. Abram in chapter 12, verse 2, this is God's promise to Abram: "And I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and him who dishonors you I will curse. And in you all the families of the earth will be blessed." Well, they're doing a crappy job. Right? It is perfectly okay to say that the church can be a hurtful place. I don't know if you've been hurt by the church or people in the church. I don't know if you've been hurt by Christians or people in your youth group. But I know it happens. I know the church can be a hurtful place, and that's okay to say. Let me show you what's going on with Sarah. Sarah, the only thing that she can do with her life that matters at all is have a baby. This has been told to her since she was young. This has been expected of her. This is her hope for significance and purpose and meaning. And I don't care what kind of overachiever you are. I don't care if you get up in the morning at 6 o'clock a.m. every day and exercise and you eat clean. I don't care if there's everything in the world. If you put your mind to it, you can do it. I mean, there are those kind of girls out there that are like, yeah, I really could do anything. Like if I put my mind to it, I may not like it, but I could do it. Well, you can't make yourself have a baby. No matter what you do or how you try, you can't make yourself have a baby. So the one thing that she was supposed to do with her life, no matter what she does, she can't. The hardest thing you will do as a believer is wait on God to fulfill His promises to you and obey while you're waiting. That is the hardest thing you will do. It is scary. It's risky. God's promise to Abram was to give him a baby. This is 10 years after the promise. It hasn't happened yet. God's promise to you is to satisfy you. He promises. That's His promise to you. And the hardest thing you will do is obey while you're waiting for that to happen. But God, if I obey you, I might lose my friends. God, if I obey you, I might lose my boyfriend. It is so scary and difficult and hard. But let me show you what happens when you don't. Because like Eve, the consequence of Eve's sin is for her to become a controller. I don't know if you all have heard me talk before, but in some of my talks in the past, we talk about the curse of Eve and how specific to her there were two things. She would have pain in the childbearing situation, which is happening in this story, and she would also become a controller. So her desire would be to control her husband, to control the world around her, to get good things at any cost, to use. So, looking at the Bible, let me turn to the right chapter. And Sarai said to Abram, verse 2, "Behold, now the Lord has prevented me from bearing children. Go into my servant. It may be that I shall obtain children by her." Y'all, this was a common solution. And Sarai is just trying to fix it. This is something that a lot of people did. And so she's like, well, maybe this is how we're supposed to do it. And she takes it into her own hands with no regard for Hagar. She doesn't even see her. She doesn't even hear her. She just uses her to get her idol. The women in the church do the same thing. We are all Eve. Y'all, I do this. You do this. I will use the people around me to get my idols. It's what happens when we take it into our own hands. We say, I know, God, I know what obedience, but it's just so hard, and this might work. This may be the way I get satisfaction. So it's okay to say that you've been hurt by people in the church, but what I want you to hear me say is that the church, we are a holy people. We've been set apart by God. We are holy and we are being made holy. Redemption starts in the church. His ministry of reconciliation comes to the church. It's where the word is preached. It's where the sacraments are administered. It's where the means of grace roll out to you. So don't give up on the church. God reveals Himself to His bride. And you have to be part of the church to see it. The church is a hurtful place, and we're also a holy people. But I want you to see Him. The church is failing. The people of God are failing Hagar in this moment. But let's look at Him. So she gets pregnant. She's nothing. She's a nobody. And she finally has one thing that makes her special. And all of a sudden, it's power. So she starts to gloat. And Sarai says to Abram, may the wrong done to me be on you. Well, first of all, did I show you Sarai's solution was verse 3. So after Abram had lived 10 years in the land of Canaan, Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, the Egyptian, and gave to Abram, her husband. It's Eve all over again. She takes, she gives, she tries to fix it herself. We're Eve. It's a story that just repeats itself. But then she gets pregnant, and Sarai says to Abram, "May the wrong be done to me be on you." So all of a sudden, she's like super hurt. She has no idea what she's done to Hagar, but she's super hurt, so now she's angry. "I gave my servant to your embrace, and when she saw that she had conceived, she looked on me with contempt. May the Lord judge between you and me." But Abram said to Sarai, "Behold, your servant is in your power. Do to her as you please." Come on, Abram. You're the one who God appeared to. You're the one that's heard the promises of God. Come on, man. Do something. But he doesn't. So Sarai dealt harshly with her, and she fled from her. The angel of the Lord found her by the spring of water in the wilderness, the spring on the way to Shur. Not sure what Sarai did to Hagar, but it was horrible enough that a pregnant woman runs into the desert. She's fleeing back to Egypt. Shur is on the way to Egypt. She's trying to get back home and escape. And God finds her, and it's not the angel of the Lord is Jesus before his incarnation. And he finds her, and it's not like, oh hey, what are you doing here? It's not a run-in, it's a pursuant. He comes after her, and he finds her, he gets her, and he says, "Hagar, servant of Sarai, where have you come from, and where are you going?" Until this point, no one has called her by name. When Abram and Sarai talk about her, it's always the maidservant. The first person to use her name is God himself. He knows her. Who is looking out for Hagar? God himself is looking out for Hagar. Let's go on. "Where are you going?" "I'm fleeing from my mistress Sarai." The angel of the Lord said to her, "Return to your mistress and submit to her." And the angel of the Lord also said to her, "I will surely multiply your offspring so that it cannot be numbered for multitude." The angel of the Lord said to her, "Behold, you are pregnant. You shall bear a son. You shall call his name Ishmael," which means God hears, "because the Lord has listened to your affliction." It doesn't say he listened to her prayers. T. Kelly, points this out. He doesn't listen to her prayers. He listens to her pain. Even if she doesn't even know to call out to him yet. Y'all, in your pain, even when you don't have the words to call out, even if you don't think he hears you, your pain itself calls out to him. And he hears your pain. And he sees your pain. The pain itself is speaking on your behalf to him, and he hears it. No one else in her life, in her story, saw her pain and heard her pain, but God himself did. How is this possible that God would care about her pain? Because you know what? God is supposed to be angry with her. How is it possible that God could hear your pain and actually care? And actually become a place for you to tuck into? He's supposed to be mad at you. You're mean. And you're selfish. And you don't love him all the time. And you sure don't worship him like you're supposed to, being as holy as he is. He's supposed to be angry with you. But instead, he sends his son. And he pours all of that anger on him. So that for you, he could become a safe place. Psalm 3 verse 3 says, Joey pointed this out to us this summer as one of our intern Bible studies. "O Lord, how many are my foes? Many are rising against me. Many are saying of my soul, there is no salvation in God, for him in God. But you, O Lord, are a shield about me. You're my glory and the lifter of my head." Do you understand? He is a shield about you. And nothing enters into your world and your life that doesn't first go through him. Nothing pierces you that doesn't pierce him first. Everything that is in your life has come into your world through the filter of a loving Father. we still feel pain. But there's someone who is orchestrating it, allowing it, in perfect control of when it comes and when it goes. He allows it. And He's surrounding you. And He has you. And He's in it with you. He sees it. He hears it. The pain that you are feeling or will feel someday, He hears it. And He's provided a way for you to tuck into Him, for Him to be a safe place for you. Not an angry place, daughter of the King, but a safe place. And I also want you to see what He calls her to do. Because in my mind, what God should do is take Hagar and get her out of that situation. But He doesn't. It's so interesting. In verse 9 he says, the angel of the Lord said to her, return to your mistress and submit to her. I think it's for two reasons. The first reason is they are the people of God. And He calls her to go back to the people of God, not because they're nice. They're mean. And not because it's safe and warm and she's cared for. Because right now that's not happening. It doesn't mean it can't happen, y'all. I have been loved well by the people of God. They have healed parts of me and loved me so well. But it's also, I've been hurt by the people of God. But what's happening in the people of God is God reveals Himself to His bride. Right? You have to be part of the people of God. That's where redemption starts. That's where the reconciliation of all things, the making of all things new starts in the church. You can't separate yourself from the church. You need the church. So He calls her to go back to the people of God. But He also calls her to go back to be an agent of reconciliation. We live in a broken planet. Ladies, you live during a time between two ages. There's this idea called the now but not yet. Jesus has come. He is ruling. He is on His throne. But His rule has not come. It is complete, but it has not unraveled all the way. The implications of what happened on the cross have not unraveled all the way, right? He's unraveling His rule through time into all of the corners of this planet. But He's choosing to do it through time. And one day it will be at its fullness. But right now, it's still unraveling. If I was mixing up some banana bread or whatever, cookies, whatever, and I had the eggs and the flour and all the stuff, and I was mixing, and I kind of just fumbled and dropped the bowl. And there's this mess on the floor. And I was just standing there. How would you tell me to clean it up? What would you tell me to do? I'm standing there. Julia, what would you tell me? Just say it.
Scrape as much as you can.
Right.
In the bowl.
Right. Okay, what else did you tell me?
Get a towel.
Go get a towel. What else? Mop. What else?
Pick up the bowl.
Pick up the bowl. Yeah. You would tell me to actually move my arms and feet and go clean it up. Right? 1 Corinthians 12:27. You don't have to turn there. I'll read it for you. Now you are the body of Christ and individually members of it. Do y'all realize Jesus' hands and feet on this planet are you? If there's something in this world that's broken, who's the hands that's going to fix it? Hey. Who's the hands that's going to fix it? If you are looking at something and going, God, why are you letting this happen? Redemption happens through His hands and feet. God is redeeming this planet. And He is doing it without us. He doesn't need us to do it. But He is using us as the means. The primary means of redemption is His body. You are His hands and feet. There's two different ways we can respond to a broken world. In the pain of this world and the mess of this world, we can pull away. And we can create a little perfect world for ourselves, trying to get back to Eden, that Eden will never come back. Or we can be part of the anticipation and the participation of the coming Eden. What wrong are you particularly meant to make right? In your life, in your high school, in your neighborhood, in your family, what wrong are you, 9th grader, meant to make right? What good, college freshman, are you meant to grow? Who will you love? Who will you sacrifice for? Where will you serve? What aspect of the fall will you battle? He's unraveling his rule and his kingdom. He's fighting back the curse and fighting back the fall and making all things new through you. What is it in your life? What pains? Sometimes it's easier to stand up for others. What about for yourself in your own world? What is happening to you in your world? That painful situation that you have to go back to high school, or you have to go back to your family in that painful situation. How can you be an agent of reconciliation in that? When will you say, enough? Enough, that's not how it's supposed to be. Fight to make it right. You have cosmic significance in your high school, with your girlfriends, with your brothers and sisters as they hurt. You have cosmic significance to fight back the fall and fight back the curse and be part of making all things new. The angel of the Lord called Hagar to go back. We see it across Scripture. God hates slavery, so He's not saying go back into slavery. We see in Philemon and different places, in Jeremiah with the captives in Babylon, where God calls people to go back to messy situations, to reveal Him, to fight back the curse, to produce good, and to make all things new. Y'all, I don't know. I know there's one of me and there's like 1,000 of y'all, and some of y'all have come up and spoken to me, and I've loved it. But I know some of y'all will never do that, and that's fine. And some of y'all want to, but it's weird for you. So I'm so open to having you be part of my world. That's my email address. If y'all want to share anything, say anything, just give us, a hey, this is me. Or if you have questions, or yes.
Okay, is that an M or an N?
Oh, it's an M, like Marie, Julia Marie Friedman, or Michaud Friedman. But so yeah. You have access to me if you want it. You don't have to use this. If I never see you again and you're okay with that, it won't hurt my feelings. But I do want to give you access for whatever reason, even just to be friends. Whatever. But I hope that you see, first of all, you are not alone in your pain. You are seen and you are heard. And then you also have a role in that situation. You are His hands and feet to make things, to fight back the curse. And you're not alone in it. It's not up to you. He's working, and He'll work even if you fail. But you can be part of it. All right, let me pray for us, and y'all are dismissed.